The cargo bay reeked of fear and rust. Cirrus pressed her back against the cold metal wall, her breath shallow as she counted the heartbeats between the guards' patrol routes. 30 seconds. That's all she had. The Kravith raiders had made a mistake when they'd raided the human colony ship 3 months ago. They'd assumed the lone survivor, a woman with no visible weapons, no armor, no apparent threat, would be useful only as a curiosity or slave labor. They hadn't considered that humans didn't need claws or fangs to be dangerous. They hadn't realized that humanity's greatest weapon had always been spite-wrapped in stubbornness. In the shadowed corner of her cell, 6 pairs of luminescent eyes watched her. The Lyrene cubs huddled together, their silvery fur matted with grime, their small bodies trembling. They were prey species, herbivores from a gentle world where conflict meant running, not fighting. The raiders had taken them for the fighting pits, expecting them to die quickly for entertainment. All right. Little ones, Cirrus whispered in broken galactic common, then switched to the clicking sounds she'd learned mimicked their native tongue. Lesson 3. Today we learn about anger. The smallest cub, Rukal, she'd named him, crept forward. His right ear was torn, a souvenir from a guard's boot. He was the size of a terrier, with rabbit-like features and the disposition of a kicked puppy. Every instinct in his species screamed at him to submit, to hide, to die quietly. Cirrus had other plans. She extended her hand, scarred and calloused, and Rukal pressed his muzzle against it. Your people were peaceful, she said softly. Mine were too once. Thousands of years ago. Then we learned something your people haven't yet. She leaned closer, her voice dropping. We learned that teeth aren't just for eating. They're for surviving, the door mechanism hissed. Cirrus's muscles coiled. Right on schedule, the evening feeding. A Kravith guard lumbered in, his reptilian bulk filling the doorway. He tossed a protein bar at Cirrus and dumped a container of grain pellets for the cubs. Eat fast, mammals, he grunted in heavily accented common. Tomorrow, little ones, go to the pit, finally. His lipless mouth curled in what passed for a smile among his kind. We take bets on which breaks first. Sarah said nothing. She'd learned silence was its own weapon. The guard snorted and turned away. That's when Rukal moved. The cub had been practicing for weeks, every time the guards weren't watching, every stolen moment between terror and exhaustion. Cirrus had shown him how humans fought when they were small and weak, dirty, desperate, and without honor. She taught him that survival had no rules. Rukal launched himself at the guard's ankle, his small jaws, herbivore teeth, meant for grinding plant matter, clamping down with everything his species had never been bred to use. The guard roared, more in surprise than pain, and kicked backward, but Cirrus was already moving. 2 months of watching, learning, calculating. She knew the Kravith had thick scales but soft throat pouches. She knew their neural clusters were positioned at the base of their skulls. She knew humans had evolved as endurance hunters, and that meant they could outlast, outthink, and outstubborn anything the galaxy threw at them. Her improvised shiv, a sharpened piece of hull plating she'd been hiding for 47 days, found the sweet spot between vertebrae before the guard could call for help. He collapsed like a falling tree. The other 5 cubs stared in shocked silence. Lesson 4, Sarah said, breathing hard, already stripping the guard of his access codes and weapon. When they think you're prey, you make them regret it. She looked at Rukal, who was still trembling but standing taller than before. The cub had drawn blood, his species' first act of violence in 15,000 years of recorded history. Good boy, Cirrus whispered. Now let's teach the others. The Kravith Raiders' ship, the Bloodwake, had never experienced a mutiny from its cargo before. Prey didn't rebel. Prey didn't plan. Prey certainly didn't systematically disable life. Support in the crew quarters while simultaneously releasing every caged being on levels 3 through 7. But Prey had never met Cirrus. By the time the ship's captain realized what was happening, 6 Lyrene cubs had become 6 small furies of fur and fury, each one mimicking the tactics their human teacher had drilled into them. Trip the big ones. Go for the joints. Use your size as an advantage. Never fight fair when fair means death. Rukal led them through the ventilation shafts, his torn ear a banner of defiance. The other rescued beings, Growlin merchants, Torthic workers, even a young Kravith, who'd been enslaved by his own kind, followed the humans, tactical commands broadcast over the stolen comm system. When Galactic Patrol finally boarded the Bloodwake after receiving its automated distress signal. They found a ship in chaos. The raiders were bound with their own restraints. The cargo hold had been converted into a makeshift medical bay, and in the captain's chair sat a human woman, one arm around a small silver cub, both covered in the kind of scars that spoke of survival against impossible odds. "Took you long enough," Cirrus said when the patrol commander demanded an explanation. The commander, a growlin with sensor stalks quivering in confusion, stared at the scene. "How did you—" "The raiders are twice your size. The cubs are non-violent herbivores. How did you overcome them?" Cirrus looked down at Rukal, who looked back up at her with those luminescent eyes that now held something new. Not just fear, not just hope. Something sharper. Something that knew how to bite. "I taught them something humans learned a long time ago," she said simply. "Everyone thinks they're the predator until they meet something that refuses to be prey." Rukal chittered softly, and Cirrus smiled, the first real smile in 3 months. "Besides," she added, "they thought cubs would break first. They didn't expect us to teach them how to bite back."